Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to continue from where we left off in the last episode. So in our last episode, we were able to create our block card components and we're going to proceed from there. So going back to our UI, I found out that we have one more extra component that looks like the block card itself. And based on that, I've updated my task to include this. So now we have the block card feature. And back to the UI, yes, the block card feature that's always been there. And the difference between this card is that it's having a cover and it doesn't have the caption. So it's still technically a block card with some few exceptions. Okay, so on that note, we are going to create this component first before moving to other components. And this should be quite easy. So let's go back to our code. So in here, the caption is not going to be compulsory any longer, but it's going to be optional. So based on that, we can tell it to display it or not. So coming back to the caption here, we only want to display the caption if it exists. So we can have blog.caption and out. So this is only going to show if the blog caption exists. And we might have to make some adjustment to our style based on this. So if we go back to the style, we're going to confirm if the margin button is controlled from the h3 or from the peak tag. And technically, the peak tag should be controlling this because once it's out, it shouldn't influence the spacing again. So that's the first part. Then the second part is to have everything on the same level, because if you come back to our UI, we'll find out that this cover is on the same level as everything here. So based on that, we're going to put all this within a div. So we have div. The div does not necessarily need to have a class because we are not going to be targeting it specially. Then we are going to have a separate div for our cover. However, that will only show if the cover exists. So again, we're going to have block.cover and add it. And we're going to have div because we want to use the CSS background image. So if we come back to the UI, we have a cover. We could use the Next.js image. But I want to have more control over the image itself. So we don't necessarily have to show all the content of the image. We just want it to be obvious as to what is inside of it. And we can have more control using the background image. So we can come back here. We can have a div. I'll just call it cover. Then we can have a style. And have this as background image. And this is going to have the string interpolation, and we're going to have a URL within it. And within the URL, we want to get the background cover itself, and that will be the blog.cover, like that. However, an issue here is there are blogs without cover. So how do we go about that? So one thing we can do is if the blog does not have a cover, then we can have a default cover there. Okay? So we're going to get into that later on. Probably that's going to be a functionality thing. So we just want to have a holder in case there is no cover. Okay, and finally we can close the div tag and format it just to get a better preview. Alright, so we are done with this part. So nothing really has changed with the default one. Alright, so within Cloudinary, I've went back to upload this cover just for testing. And now I'm going to publish the link so that I can use within my blog. So now that I have that, I can come back to my code, come back to the main page. And here I'm going to have a cover. And now if we go back to this, nothing would really change. So let's come back to the UI. Nothing will really change, and that's because the cover does not have a specific size. So yeah, on that note, we are going to make some adjustments from our style, and I'll show you once I'm done playing around with it again. And before we even delve into that, the style should not be here, so it should not be within the app folder. So let's quickly correct that before we do any other thing. So within the main folder, we are going to create a styles folder. So in case we have extra styles, we can just have that. So styles, yeah, style. And we're going to drag this in here. And let's find out if we need to update the import parts. Yeah, we need to. All right, so that's the correct import parts. And let's confirm if everything is still working the way it is. All right, so we still have our start. So let's get back to having the UI for the cover image block. So let's come back here. All right, guys, so after playing around, this is what I came up with. And it looks close to what we want to have. So if we clarify again, this is what we want to have. And the major reason why we are having things spread out this way is because of the width there. So once we have the layout the way we want it, the width will be collapsed. And let's quickly go over the styles. So first thing, I had to correct my image link. So the one I had was taking me directly to the Cloudinary website. But yeah, I went back to get the real one, which got me this. Then also I removed the caption because in this case we won't be needing it. And that's just a control thing. So if we have it there, it's still going to work. So if we come back and we show it, it's still going to work. But because the other part does not need it, then we can just remove it and it will be a region. So that is it in regards to this part. Then coming back to the block card itself, so I had to include this block content just to do this. So if you come back to the style and show this, so just to ensure that it's taking the whole space when the cover is not available, so flex 1. Then for the block card itself, I made it a display flex. Then I adjusted the body a little bit. So initially the H3 does not control the spacing between itself and the P tag, but I realized that removing the P tag joins the H tag and the A tag together. So the continue reading and the title. So the correction there was just to make sure that this has the margin bottom from its side, and this doesn't have the margin top again. Then also I reduced the margin bottom from the P tag. So initially it was 20 and now I reduced it to 10 so that the A tag itself can have some control over that. So yeah, the A tag now has a margin top of 10, so it gives it more space. And you won't see the space until you set the display to be inline block. So initially it's going to be an inline tag, but with this is going to set the inline block, and with that you can control the margin top. Then here we have this part, display flex for the block card and align items to center. So every item are going to be in center. Then here is what we have for the cover itself. So with 100 pixel, height 100 pixel, background repeat, background position center, and background side cover. So here's the structure for what we want. And based on that, we were able to get this, which is what we want. One final thing we can do is for the cover, we can have a margin left of 10 pixel. Okay, and what this will do is, in a case where maybe this width is getting shorter, it will ensure that there's still some space within it. Maybe 10 pixel might be too small. Let's make it 20. And on that note, we are done with our block card feature. So we can move on to the rest. In this case, we want to have the special card. So the movie card in this case. Let's take a look at that. So this is the special card. And again, this is going to be connecting to the iBlock, the block interface, because they have the same thing. However, the structure is a bit different, as you can see. So without any further ado, let's get onto that. So again, let's duplicate the block card and just adjust accordingly. Alright, so here is the structure for the special card. However, we need to import the iBlock from the block card. So if we check there, this is exported, so importing this should be straightforward. Okay, now we have it. And now the structure is what we want to adjust. So I'm going to call this special card. So before we can proceed with our special card, there are some adjustments we need to make. So if we come back to the special card UI, if you take a look at the Figma section, we'll find out that the cover is kind of needed. I don't think the special card will work without the cover. And we can kind of instinctively control this from the UI such that for the special card content, we have to provide a block with a cover. However, we want to enforce this. We don't want to leave it to intuition. So in the case where you are working alone, maybe this might not be an issue because you know what you are doing. But in the case where you are working with team, then you want to let them know that this is required for this. So on that note, we are going to adjust the interface for the special card a little bit. So we are going to create a new one. So export iSpecial block. Okay, it's going to be an interface. Then this is going to extend iBlock. Okay. However, we don't want to extend iBlock directly. We want to remove some properties first, so that we won't have property conflict then. And I'm not sure. Let's take a look at something first. So let's say I decided to override the cover. And this is now going to be string. And I override the caption as well. This is also going to be string. And let's see what happens if we come back to the page. And we're going to shift this to special card. And this is going to change to special block. Okay, let's take a look. So caption. All right, so it looks like that worked. Yeah, it looks like that worked, and there was something I was thinking initially. So my assumption, I think I've encountered this sometimes. My assumption is that since this was defined here as something else, we couldn't override it directly. And as such, we might have to introduce something like omit. Then the iBlock, which is the interface we're extending. Then we specify the properties we want to omit. So in this case, it's going to be cover, then caption. However, looks like we won't need to do this because we can just override the existing ones from the iBlock. Yeah, I think that's quite straightforward enough. So we've overrode the existing iBlock interface. Or better still, maybe that didn't work. Or maybe it's because we didn't use this where we are supposed to. Okay, let's confirm again. All right, so that seems to work and we are good to go. So what's left now is to adjust the structure for the special part such that it fits what we want. So we already changed the class name to special part. So let's bring the cover up. So in this case, the block cover is not optional. So this comes up. Then we have the block content. And the block content does not have a specific badge. So it has the created at, the title, and the paragraph. So that's quite straightforward though. So we have the block content. We are removing the badge. Then we have the title. Then we have the p tag for the contents or caption. Then we have the continue rating. And let's see what this looks like. Alright, so this is what it looks like. We can constrain the width, and again, I'm going to leave that the way it is. So what I will do for the special card is that I'll copy most of these styles from the block card, kind of similar, and just make some adjustments. So I copied the top and the body section. I think that's going to still be the same thing. And we have this as a result of that. And here, I don't think I need to constrain the title width. So let's come back here and remove this. So that will be controlled based on the width of the contents. Then finally, I have to specify the cover, which is at the top, so I can copy this. So let's just see what it looks like with this direct style. So this is what it looks like. That's it again. So we want the width for this to be 100%. And we want the height to be, probably controlled by us, 100 pixel or 300 pixel. Okay, it looks like that's not interesting. However, we're going to be using more interesting images at the end of the day. So finally, we want to have a background down, or rather a margin down. And it looks like there's some spacing between the left side and the created art itself. Let's check that. So yeah, we have a margin left, which we would remove. Then the cover as well, we're going to remove the margin left. And we're going to have a margin bottom of 30 pixel. Okay, this is much more interesting. And I will add the continue reading text reduced. Looks like it's just all over the place. So I'll do that for the block card first. So the A tag for this font size of 14 pixel, or rather I can just do it generally, actually. Says it's going to be the same one around. So font size equals to 14 pixel. Alright, so that's more or less like it. So I think on this note, we are done with the special card, and the last card to work with is going to be the comment card, which is quite straightforward if you ask me. So it has the name of the author, the dates, and the content itself. So quite similar to the block card. So again, we're going to duplicate the block card because it's the closest. Alright, so we've adjusted a lot of things and it's affecting the content itself. So we no longer have blog, it's changed to comments. And now this is also iComment. So let's make some adjustment to the interface. We remove the I tag, that's not going to be needed. So we need the created art, we need the comment itself. Or rather, let's call it content. I can't remember what we use. Alright, so this was what we used. So this is comment. And this is comment as well. And the reason why we have to make the name match is whatever we're getting from our backend, we don't need to do some adjustment again. We can just merge it up with our interface directly. So it removes all the stress. So we have the created art, we don't have a cover. So let's verify the name. So we have the blog, which would not be compulsory in this case. We don't need that information, but we want the name. So here we have the name, and that would be it. So for the blog content, I don't think we need the comment content rather, or the comment card rather. We can remove all this, we can bring it back out. I will remove all this. So this is going to be the comment name. Then the comment created at. And here we're going to have a p tag for the comment itself. Comment almost like a tautology. And here we have continue reading. So we want to have a special way to undo this. So let's put this continue reading in front of the p tag. Okay. Let's format it to clean it up. And here's the structure for the comment card. And again, we'll come back to our page. We are going to bring the comment card here. And here we're going to have this as I comment. So for I comment, we have the created art, so we're going to leave that. However, every other thing is growing. So we're going to have name and define with great. And we are going to have the comment itself. And again, we're just going to copy from our comment here. So we've copied the comment and we can paste it here. Okay. So once again, we have the structure, and we can come back to our UI and verify we have this. So yeah, Adefemi is attached to the badge class, so I can remove that. And let's verify this. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And we can come back to fix the comment card. So this is going to be top, and this is going to be the name. All right, so here is what we have, and I thought, as we can see, it's kind of conforming quite well. So again, we're going to come back to the style, where I'm going to play a little bit with the styling and let you know what I came up with. So once again, after playing around, here is what I came up with, which I think looks exactly or close to what we want. So again, if we verify, here is what we want. And this is actually with more. I don't think we should mind about the color so much. We can easily control that from the global section. And yeah, I think we are good with that. So one thing I introduced though is if we come back to the comment card, I'm going to change this to read more. And I don't think it has this dot. So I added this dash div here just to control the dot in between here. Okay. And we've come back to the style, quite straightforward. We have the comment card, and we have it up just like we have it with the block card as well. Display flex, align item center. So for the name, it has a font size of 14, font weight of 600. Then here's the dash with TIWI, TIWI background color black. Again, from top to bottom 0, but from left to right, so as to have that space. And the border radius of 50%. Then we have the date like we used to, and we have that. Then the body has the bit tag just like we have it from the blog, and yeah, good. So now if we confirm, we can just adjust the width just to see how it conforms. So as you can see, it conforms quite well. So that's what we are going with. And on this note, we are done with all the components. And in the next section, we are going to start bringing all the components together to get more suitable pages. So guys, if you enjoyed the episode so far, kindly leave a thumbs up and let us know what you think about it. And yeah, on this note, I will be saying bye for now.